Since I started homeschooling, by far, hands down, my favorite subject has become history. I mean, there's so much to learn. So much that I didn't learn when I was in the public school system, and so much I need to learn, and also teach my kids, right? And actually, my kids love history too. It's definitely one of their favorite subjects. So as I'm wanting to teach my kids history and learn about history myself, I'm always on the lookout for different resources, books, activities that I can do with my family to get a really good understanding of what happened during that time period. So that is what this video is all about. Actually, this video is going to specialize in the World War II era with history and those kind of things. But I have actually put together a whole playlist with a bunch of my friends. It's down in the description box below, and we are tackling different time periods and eras and themes. So make sure you check out that playlist below. Make sure you save it so when you get to that time period, you can reference it. Now, there is also another link that I am putting down below in the description box, and that is my storefront. In my storefront, I will have a section for historical books, and I am sticking all the books that I'm going to mention in this video right into that slot so you can check them out. And I am going to be talking about different books that cover different things. So I'm just gonna let's just go. Let's just get started with this video. We all know that the Holocaust is a very, very deep topic, and we probably don't want to be talking too much to our 6-7-year-olds about the Holocaust. And that's why the majority of these books are going to be for 8 and older. However, the books that I'm going to mention right now are going to be for our younger kids, because when we are studying with our older kids, we don't want to leave those younger kids out. So the first book I'm going to mention is called Hold On to Your Music, and that's going to be very appropriate for age 4 to 8. It is a picture book, but it is about a little girl that escaped, the concentration camps during the Holocaust, and what she did is she played music. She actually became a concert pianist, and it's very colorful, very inviting, something that it helps them kind of get a little introduction. The next book I'm going to mention is really good for those 6 to 9-year-olds, and it's The History of Pearl Harbor. I loved this book. It's very colorful. It's very inviting. It gives you the history of Pearl Harbor as meant to be told to a 6, 7, 8-year-old. It gives you a visual timeline, answer those questions like who, what, when, where, etc. Kind of gives you like a core understanding of what actually happened in Pearl Harbor. And once again, a nice little introduction to World War II, which is, Pearl Harbor was when America actually decided to enter into the war. So, I didn't do that on purpose. Introduction. All right, moving on. Now, these are actually a set of books, 2 books. It's Great Battles for Boys. Now that series actually has a ton of different books, and we've gotten a few of them. We actually had World War II Europe, and we had World War II in the Pacific, and both of those books got destroyed, so I don't have them to show you right now. But what's really cool about these books is they have really short stories in them that are engaging, interesting. Some have battles you probably never even heard of, but of course they have the ones that you have heard of, like Normandy, invasion of Poland, Pearl Harbor, the ratification aboard the USS Missouri. And there's some Finland wars in there, as well as those wars in Africa. So all these different battles that boys can really, really get into. So of all the books, that's gonna be on my top recommendation, honestly. This one is a Newbery Honor book, The War That Saved My Life. It's about a 10-year-old girl who has a crippled foot, and her mom is too embarrassed to let her out of the house. However, her brother is shipped off to London, and during that time, now she's gonna go. It is more about the characters than it is about the history of the war, but sometimes it's really good to have those kind of books, because you do, like at the last 2 I mentioned, you do feel the feelings that these people felt. And speaking of feeling feelings that people felt, I'm gonna talk about The Boy Who Dared. Love this book. It's about a group of boys that write anti-Nazi pamphlets to be passed out in Germany. But it's so good. It teaches kids about bravery, about standing up for what you believe. And it talks about how this character becomes involved in his own personal resistance. I love that word, resistance. It reminds me of Star Wars. I mean, it's all about courage. It talks about what he experienced when he was in prison, and it's a good one. This is a definitely must-have. This one actually is. Because if you think about it, these boys had courage when so many adults didn't. So what does that say about what our youth are capable of doing? That's the kind of role model that I want to be shown to my children. The next one that I'm going to talk about is more for like age 10 and up, and it's The Survivors of the Holocaust. It's actually a graphic novel, and it's great for those kids that aren't really into reading and they need that visual input, and that's what it gives you. When you look at the pictures in this novel, they're not colorful, they're not bright, but they are kind of solemn, which really is actually appropriate because it brings you in to what actually the mood of what you were actually studying. Now, there are 6 stories total of the Jewish children and young adults, so you can follow each and every one of them and their story, and it's just a really great way to get those kids learning about what these kids went through during the Holocaust. Another book that my kids devoured, and I can't really show you right now, it's called Black Radish, and my kids devoured this book. Actually, my youngest, once again, read it twice. He loved it so much, and this one's cool because it takes place in France. You don't really usually see a lot of books taking place in France and stories from France. You mostly hear, Germany and Poland and Italy, but this one takes place in France, and it's about a boy that's trying to help save his cousin, and they find a very, very interesting way in doing so. Hint, hint, it has to do with the title of the book. But this one's great. It's an award-winning book. It's definitely worth the purchase, or at least borrowing it from the library, but be careful, they may destroy it, because that's what my kids did. Now, this book is called The Bicycle Spy, and I really feel like this one's kind of similar to Black Radish. They both take place in France. This one takes place in France, and the main character loves riding his bike. He actually wants to enter into the Tours de France. He wants to enter in to the bike race, and it gets canceled because there's a war going on, and so he's upset about this. But then he finds out that there's more to be upset about than just a canceled bicycle race, and it takes you on the journey with him as he discovers a lot of stuff, so to speak, because I don't want to ruin the ending, but this one's really good. All right, this book is called His Name Was Raoul Wallenberg, and this is, you look at it, you think he is actually somebody that was sent from Sweden as a diplomat over to Hungary, and he actually ends up saving the lives of thousands of Jewish people. Now, this book has some real beautiful images in it that you can see because he is a real person. And the writing, the way that it is written and put together is just a beautiful book. It doesn't feel like a typical book that you read. It feels more like somebody documenting your life. Here's some more pictures. I did want to include a National Geographic's World War II Told Through the Eyes of a Children type book. Anything from National Geographic's, for some reason, I just love their pictures. I love the stories that they put with the pictures. This one is for ages 10 and older, and it tells the story through the eyes of the children that experience things like bombings and fear. Now, if I don't mention this book, I'm gonna be upfront. Katie from Life in the Mundane is gonna personally drive over to Florida and kill me. Maybe not, but she'll be very upset. We all know it. It's The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. There's not much to say except she is an amazing woman who tells her amazing story of how she saved hundreds of Jewish people, as well as surviving. And it's cool because she tells it from her perspective. I mean, you can't ever beat that. The next book is going to take us over to the Japanese camps that a lot of us don't really talk about that happened during World War II, because it is kind of overshadowed by the Holocaust and the Jewish camps, but both are equally horrible and equally should be taught to our children. This book is called Farewell to Manzanar, and it is a memoir being told by a Japanese girl about what she goes through before, during, and even after the Japanese camps. Of course, this one, like the other books that I mentioned, are going to be for your older kids. Now, this one's kind of fun. I'm going to say this one's more for age at grades 5 and up, but this one is a little bit more on the lighter side. It's about a radar man in the British Air Force and his dog, Judy. And they actually meet each other at the POW during World War II, and it's just a friendship that connects these two together, and you have to read the book to find out what happens. Now let's come back to America and talk about a book called Willow Run. It is about a little girl who is forced to move to Willow Run, Michigan. Now, this is a historical fiction book, and even though Willow Run was a real place with a real factory there that did make B-24 Liberator bombs, her father in the story actually had to go and work at that plant. Her brother was shipped off to Europe to go fight in the war, and her uncle, who is actually German, talks about how he was being bullied in the United States. Now, the main character of the book is 11 years old, and we walk with her as she goes through her struggles, her fears, her dreams, her expectations, her disappointments, you know, all those emotions that 11-year-old girls have that are very, very normal for that age, except that she is living during this time period. What I like about this book is that it's very, very relatable, especially to someone who's 11 years old and are going through those feelings. It really helps you put yourself in her shoes and kind of walk with her and feel what she's feeling, and kind of, you know, it feels like you're in that time period with her. It's a really good way to get your kid to not just learn about history, but also kind of experience it. So I highly, highly recommend this one. It's called Willow Run. Now, this book is called The Silver Sword. It's been around for a while. It's also known as The Escape from Warsaw. It's about a man that was sent to prison because he was anti-Nazi. His wife is deported to Germany, and then when he escapes, he takes his 3 children, sends them off, and tells them to meet them in Switzerland. I mean, there's your synopsis right there, so you can kind of see where this story goes. Good book, been around for a while. Put it on your list. Just, you guys are gonna be busy reading when you hit World War II. Just plan on spending like a month. Okay, I have to mention this one, Number the Stars, which most of you guys probably read when you were in high school or middle school, but we know that it's about the Dutch resistance, which actually, in reality, saved 99% of their Jewish population. So it's about a girl, Anne Marie, and her friend Ellen. They're escaping to get to neutral Sweden. Great, great book. Love this one. Okay, this book is called Run Boy Run, and I will give kind of a little warning in the beginning because it does have some mature content. It is one that is just so good that it's just worth mentioning. So it's about a boy who disguises himself as someone from Poland, and he's Jewish, and it talks about all his hardship that he goes through the harsh winters with a freak accident. Talks about anti-Semitism, dealing with the Nazis, just trying to survive. There's also a movie on Netflix about it. So that's another reason it's worth mentioning. Read the book, watch the movie. But hopefully these books can just help you get some ideas, a springboard into learning about World War II, Pearl Harbor, the Holocaust, Normandy. It's truly a time period that I hope never gets canceled. It's got some amazing stories, amazing outcomes, but it was horrible and heart-wrenching. But we can learn from that, and we can learn from our mistakes. But do check out that playlist. I know there's some really cool themes in there. I know one person is doing it on inventions. I think there's someone doing on, you know, Asia and missionaries and people of faith, and I don't know, let me look. History of women, history of the ancient world. Oh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna give you some really good resources too. So make sure to check all of that out, and also check out my storefront as well. My name is Leilani. This is Living with Eve. If you have not subscribed to my channel, if you're new here, we talk about homeschooling. We talk about homeschooling special needs. My youngest has Down syndrome, because I don't just homeschool my daughter with special needs, but I do a lot of homeschool videos in general, but then I do focus in on a lot of stuff that I work with Naomi on. And one day she will be learning about history, and we will be talking about the Holocaust. So there you go, that's my channel. I hope you guys consider subscribing if you aren't, and give me a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in our next video. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.